Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janavalabha Girivardhari Gopi Janavalabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Kunja Bihari Jayam Vishnupada Parivajikacharya, Ashtotar Shatashi Srimad Divine Grace, A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami, Prabhupada Ki Jai, Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivajikacharya, Ashtotar Shatashi Srimad Divine Grace, the Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada Ki Jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai, Namacharya Shri Haridas Thakur Ki Jai, Prem Sikaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivas Adi Gauda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai, Shri Radha Krishna Gopagopana Shamakund Radha Kund Giri Govardhan Ki Jai, Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai, Navadvip Dham Ki Jai, Ganga Yamuna Mai Ki Jai, Tulsi Maharani Ki Jai, Bhakti Devi Ki Jai, Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai, all glories of the assembled devotees, all glories of the assembled devotees, all glories of the assembled devotees, all glories of Shri Guru, Shri Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Sixth Canto, Prescribed Duties for Mankind, Chapter 1, The History of the Life of Ajamil, Text 47. How many texts are here? Oh, 60, 68. Vartamano Nyo Kalo Gunabhigyapako Yata Evam Janmanyayor Etad Dharma Dharma Nidarshanam Vartmanan Yo excuse me Vartmana. Oh, so what was I saying? Vartma Pradarshaka Guru. Vartamanonya Yokalo Gunabhigyapako Evam Janmanya Yoretad Dharma Dharma Nidarshanam Vartamanon yo kalo Gunabhigyapako yata Evam janman yoretad Dharma dharma nidarshanam Vartamanon yo kalo Gunabhigyapako yata Evam janmanyo etad Dharma dharma nidarshanam Vartamanonyo, the present, Anyayo, of the past and future, Kalaha, time, Guna abhigyapakaha, making known the qualities, Yata, just as, Evam, thus, Janma, birth, Anya Yaho, of the past and future births, Etat, this, Dharma, religious principles, Adharma, irreligious principles, Nidarshanam, indicating. Translation and commentary by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhakti Swami Prabhupada. Just as springtime in the present indicates the nature of springtimes in the past and future, so this life of happiness, distress, or a mixture of both, gives evidence concerning the religious and irreligious activities of one's past and future lives. Purport. Our past and future are not very difficult to understand, for time is under the contamination of the three modes of material nature. As soon as spring arrives, the usual exhibition of various types of fruits and flowers automatically become manifest. And therefore we may conclude that spring in the past was adorned with similar fruits and flowers, and will be so adorned in the future also. Our repetition of birth and death is taking place within time, and according to the influence of the modes of nature, we are receiving various types of bodies and being subjected to various conditions. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshuvanmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mukam Karitivachalam Pangam Langate Gadem Yakiputamaham Vande Shri Gurunditanam Vancha Kapurivishta Kripa Sindhibevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gauda Bhaktivinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Translation again. Just as springtime in the present indicates the nature of springtimes in the past and future, so this life of happiness, distress, or a mixture of both gives evidence concerning the religious and irreligious activities of one's past and future lives. I remember one time Tirthamaj was telling me about this film he watched, and it was about a monk. Well, it was about a monastery, and a guru in the particular monastery, and how there was one young man who joined, and he was doing well, and he was doing what had to be done in the monastery, and waking up early and different duties and things like that, education. And then what happened is eventually that man, which I'm not going to get all the details of this film, but this man, this boy, he grew up, and he became enchanted with a woman similar to a Jamil, and the boy left, and he went off with this girl, and he forgot about his spiritual life. And the thing is that the guru, he knew what was going to happen. I mean, it was very clear, just like it's being mentioned here in this verse. I mean, spring comes around every year, and certain fruits and flowers that are blooming, and we can expect that. So it wasn't a surprise. So then some years later, after being burned and etc. by so many situations based on him trying to gratify his material desires, he made it back to the ashram, to the temple, and he himself continued in the spiritual practice, and he became a bit of a leader there. And then some time passes, and then he himself, who went through all of these difficulties, he saw a particular young man join, and the young man joined and went through the whole process. And this young man did the same exact thing that he did when he was young. And in this way, it was like a cycle. So like the cycle of the seasons, right? I believe that's the title of the film. What is it? Summer? Was it summer?
Spring, fall.
Yeah, summer, spring, fall, winter. That was the title of the film. So for somebody who is seen through the eyes of the scripture, they could see exactly what's going on with people, with situations, with themselves. They could see people's future based on their activities. It's not a surprise. You do certain activities and you're going to have a particular future. Or based on a particular mentality a person has right now, a person could see the past because their particular mentality or what they're going through at this moment is a cultivation from the past. Or you could say, you could say some reactions, sinful reactions, for example. A person has to undergo sinful reactions in the present, and they're suffering with a certain type of mind, for example. And based on our activities, we go up, we go down, we go here, we go there, based on our activities. And our activities are based on our consciousness. So what really needs to be changed is the consciousness, not just the activities, because someone may, for some time, change their activities from material to spiritual, for example, but they won't be able to continue with spiritual activities without changing their consciousness. Actually, the Prabhupada says you put a dog on a throne, he may be looking very nice, right? Put a nice, what do you call, crown and garland or whatever. But yeah, nice cape, right? But then you throw a bone and he jumps off, right? So it means he's forced to act according to his nature, to his particular state of consciousness. So in order to remain steady in spiritual activities, we have to change our consciousness. And this may have to happen, it happens by different ways, like we were discussing the other day, that Krishna, he speaks to us, the Bhagavad Gita, right? Spiritual master, they're speaking the English language for our benefit and our understanding. But if we don't understand the English language, then the next thing that may have to be there is danda. Danda means stick. Means that if somebody's not understanding the English language, how to mold their life, then there may have to be some punishment there. Just like a government doesn't want to put people in jail, but if they're trying to communicate with the people, hey, don't do this, this is wrong, you're going the wrong direction, the guy keeps on doing it, means he's not understanding the English language, means it's not sinking in. So they say, okay, go to jail. What can we do? Go to jail. So, in this particular month, you have these two personalities, Nalakuvara and Manigriva. You could say they went to jail. Means they were forced to enter the body of trees by Narada Muni's blessing, curse. It's a curse blessing. Means they were being immoral, irreligious rascals. So Narada Muni said, okay, take the body of trees. But it was actually a blessing. So just like to read a little bit about that. This is from the 10th chapter of Krishna book, the deliverance of Nalakuvara and Manigriva. So, the story of the cursing of Nalakuvara and Manigriva and their deliverance by Krishna in the form of Damodar, under the all-blissful desire of this great sage Narada, is here described. The two great demigods, Nalakuvara and Manigriva, were sons of the treasurer of the demigods, Kuvera, who was a great devotee of Lord Shiva. By the grace of Lord Shiva, Kuvera's material opulences had no limit. As a rich man's sons often become addicted to wine and women, so these two sons of Kuvera were also addicted to wine and sex. Once, these two demigods, desiring to enjoy, entered the garden of Lord Shiva in the province of Kailas, on the bank of the Mandakini Ganges. There they drank much and engaged in hearing the sweet singing of the beautiful women who accompanied them in that garden of fragrant flowers. So it's a real place of sense gratification where they were. Not this kind of Kali Yuga sense. This was... In an intoxicated condition, the two demigods entered the water of the Ganges, which was filled with lotus flowers, and there they began to enjoy the company of the young girls, exactly as a male elephant enjoys female elephants within the water. While they were thus enjoying themselves in the water, all of a sudden Narada, the great sage, happened to pass that way. He could understand that the demigods Nalakuvara and Manigriva were too much intoxicated and could not even see that he was passing. The young girls, however, were not so much intoxicated as the demigods, and they at once became ashamed at being naked before the great sage Narada and covered themselves with all haste. The two demigod sons of Kuvera were so much intoxicated that they could not appreciate the presence of the sage Narada, and therefore they did not cover their bodies. On seeing the two demigods so degraded by intoxication, Narada desired their welfare, and therefore he exhibited his causeless mercy upon them by cursing them. So they were so intoxicated they could hardly see. They couldn't comprehend what was going around. Narada Muni was passing. They didn't even realize. They're so intoxicated. And people do so many foolish things when they're intoxicated, drunk. Like there's some billboard here in Pacific Beach, right? Go figure. But it said, "Will you forgive me for what I said when I was drunk?" Anyways, I'm not sure what the billboard's about, but Because the great sage was compassionate upon them, he wanted to finish their false enjoyment of intoxication and association with young girls and wanted them to see Lord Krishna face to face. He conceived of cursing them as follows. He said that the attraction for material enjoyment is due to an increase of the mode of passion. A person in the material world, when favored by the material opulence of riches, generally becomes addicted to three things: intoxication, sex, and gambling. Materially opulent men, being puffed up with the accumulation of wealth, also become so merciless that they indulge in killing animals by opening slaughterhouses. And they think that they themselves will never die. Such foolish persons, forgetting the laws of nature, become overly infatuated with the body. They forget that the material body, even though very much advanced in civilization, up to the position of the demigods, will finally turn into ashes or stool. And while one is living, whatever the external condition of the body may be, within there is only stool, urine, and various kinds of worms. Thus, being engaged in jealousy and violence to other bodies, materialists cannot understand the ultimate goal of life. And without knowing this goal of life, they generally glide down to a hellish condition in their next life. So, Narada Muni was seeing these fallen Manigriva and Nalakuvara, and he was wanting to help them. Not that, oh, I'm a great sage, Narada Muni, and I'm just going to keep on passing by, but I want to help these people. Despite them being so puffed up, so an illusion, so bewildered by their material opulences. So devotees, when devotees go out, right, Harinam, book distribution, this preaching, that preaching, and when they go out, they also have to encounter such people. But they do that out of mercy because they understand that based on their activities, the devotees see, based on these people's activities, they're heading for a hellish destination, and not a good destination. So let me help. Such foolish persons commit all kinds of sinful activities on account of the temporary body, and they are even unable to consider whether the body actually belongs to them. Generally, it is said that the body belongs to the person who feeds it. One might therefore consider whether the body belongs to one personally or to the master to whom one renders service. The master of slaves claim full right to the bodies of the slaves because the master feeds the slaves. It may also be questioned whether the body belongs to the father, who is the seed-giving master of the body, or to the mother, who develops the child's body in her womb. Foolish persons are engaged in committing all sorts of sins due to the misconception of identifying the material body with the self. But one should be intelligent enough to understand to whom the body belongs. A foolish person indulges in killing animals to maintain the body, but he does not consider whether the body belongs to him or to his father or mother or maternal grandfather. Sometimes a father gives his daughter in charity to a person with a view of getting back the daughter's child as a son. The body may also belong to a stronger man who forces it to work for him. Sometimes a slave's body is sold to a master, and from that day on the body belongs to the master. And at the end of life, the body belongs to the fire, because the body is given to the fire and burned to ashes, or the body is thrown into the street to be eaten by the dogs and vultures. All right. So then Srila Prabhupada continues that a poverty-stricken man is maybe more better situated because there's not that pride there, that, oh, I'm such a powerful person and I don't have to hear from the devotees, everything's worked out. Whereas a poverty-stricken man, Srila Prabhupada says, often they're very hospitable and wanting to invite saintly persons to their homes and give them whatever they can. So Prabhupada's talking about the downfall of opulence, which just because one is a devotee doesn't mean they don't have to deal with that. They do have to deal with that. It means living in the material world, especially those who are working for money, which is most, they do have to deal with that. Means it can be a intoxicating thing. And one could become so intoxicated they just forget. Bhogeshvara prasaktanam tayapar the chetasam. Those who are bewildered by material opulence, what is it? Bhogeshvara prasaktanam tayapar hita chetasam. Yeah, those who are bewildered by material opulence. Yeah, who are attached to it and bewildered by it, the resolute determination for devotional service doesn't take place. So therefore, Srila Prabhupada in the Vedic literature says that in order to purify ourselves, in order for one to purify themselves, then they have to give charity, because that purifies. It purifies the tendency to just collect for oneself. And therefore, as the Vedic system, a saintly person takes a position of mendicant so that on the plea of begging something from the householder, he can enter any house. The householder who has usually forgotten everything about spiritual advancement because he is busy maintaining family affairs, can be benefited by the association of a saintly person. So, under the plea of begging, a mendicant may travel and visit the householder, but the idea is the point is to spread the message of Godhead, of Krishna. The great sage Narada therefore thought that it was his duty to put those demigods into a condition where they could not be falsely proud of their material opulence and prestige. Narada was compassionate and wanted to save them from their fallen life. They were in the mode of darkness, and being therefore unable to control their senses, they were addicted to sex life. It was the duty of a saintly person like Narada to save them from their abominable condition. In animal life, the animal has no sense to understand that he is naked, but Kuvera was the treasure of the demigods, a very responsible man. And Nalakuvara and Managriva were two of his sons. And yet they became so animalistic and irresponsible that they could not understand. Due to intoxication, they were naked. To cover the lower part of the body is a principle of human civilization. When men or women forget this principle, they become no better than animals. Narada therefore thought that the best punishment for them was to make them non-moving living entities, or trees. Trees are, by nature's laws, non-moving. Although trees are covered by the mode of ignorance, they cannot do harm. The great sage Narada thought it fitting that, although the brothers would be punished to become trees, by his mercy they would continue to keep their memory and be able to know why they were being punished. After changing the body, a living entity generally forgets his previous life, but in special cases, by the grace of the Lord, as with Nalakuvara and Managriva, one can remember. So they were able to remember that they were being cursed to stand as trees because of this offense to Narada Muni, or because Narada Muni wanted to help them. Which is an interesting lesson, because if we don't get the lessons that we're supposed to get, I mean, if we don't understand the lessons that we're trying to be taught, Krishna may have to use some, or the devotees may have to use some more drastic measures. They may have to use some more intense methods for us to get the point. So it's a lesson for us that we should just try to understand without having to be cursed to be trees, for example. We may not have to be cursed to be trees, but by our own activities, we may be cursed just to be in Maya, which is like, right? I mean, not engaged in the devotional service of Krishna, like it says that those legs that are not used to walk, means they're not engaged to go see the deity form of the Lord. They're considered to be like tree trunks, trees, those type of legs. So someone may fall so much into Maya that they say, I'm not going to go to the temple and see Krishna. Let me do something else. Perpetually. So we fall into this very abominable state. So we should try to understand without Krishna have to take in these drastic measures. All right. So Narada therefore contemplated that the two demigods should remain for 100 years in the time of the demigods, in the form of trees. And after that, they would be fortunate enough to see the Supreme Personality of Godhead face to face by His causeless mercy. And thus they would be again promoted to the life of the demigods and become great devotees of the Lord. So then time passes, and then after Mother Yashoda binds up Lord Krishna, this is what happens here. Although child Krishna was bound up to the wooden mortar, he began to proceed toward the twin trees in order to fulfill the prophecy of his great devotee Narada. Lord Krishna knew that Narada was his great devotee, and that the trees standing before him as twin Arjuna trees were actually the sons of Kuvera. And then Krishna said, I must now fulfill the words of my great devotee Narada, he thought. Then he proceeded through the passage between the two trees. Although he was able to pass through the passage, the large wooden mortar stuck horizontally between the trees. Taking advantage of this, with great strength, Lord Krishna began to pull the rope, which was tied to the mortar. As soon as he pulled, the two trees, with all their branches and limbs, fell down with great sound. Out of the broken fallen trees came two great personalities, shining like blazing fire. All sides became illuminated and beautiful by their presence. The two purified personalities immediately came before child Krishna and bowed down to offer their respects and prayers in the following words. So they pray, and from their prayers, we could see that they're very Krishna conscious. They became Krishna conscious. And aside from becoming Krishna conscious, they're asking, they're praying that we may always be engaged in your transcendental loving service by speaking only about your glories and hearing about your transcendental activities. May our hands and other limbs be engaged in your service, and our minds always be concentrated at your lotus feet, and our heads always bowed down before the all-pervading universal form of your lordship. So they became purified by this blessing curse of Narada Muni, and they got the lesson. So, just one more paragraph here. When the demigods, Nalakura and Managriva, finished their prayers, Krishna, the child, Lord Krishna, the master and proprietor of Gokul, bound to the wooden grinding mortar by the ropes of Yashoda, smiled and said, It was already known to me that my great devotee Narada Muni had shown his causeless mercy by saving you from the abominable condition of pride, due to possessing extraordinary beauty and opulence in a family of demigods. He has saved you from gliding down into the lowest condition of hellish life. All these facts are already known to me. You are very fortunate because not only were you cursed by him, but you had the great opportunity to see him. If somebody is able by the chance to see face to face a great saintly person like Narada, who is always serene and merciful to everyone, then immediately that conditioned soul becomes liberated. This is exactly like being situated in the full light of the sun. There cannot be any visionary impediment. Therefore, O Nalakuva and Managriva, your lives have now become successful because you have developed ecstatic love for me. This is your last birth within material existence. Now you can go back to your father's residence in the heavenly planets, and by remaining in the attitude of devotional service, you will be liberated in this very life. After this, the demigods circumambulated the Lord many times and bowed down before him again and again, and thus they left. The Lord remained bound up with ropes to the grinding mortar. That's in the Bhaktivedanta purport of the 10th chapter of Krishna, deliverance of Nalakura Manigriva. So if one sees a great personality like Narada Muni, I'm thinking about Srila Prabhupada, they become, such personalities save those other people, like Nalakura Manigriva. And just thinking about Prabhupada coming to America, a number of his disciples were, they were very comfortably materially, money and, right, everything was going fine materially, right? It wasn't that they were in some materially distressed situation in terms of like, you could say from much of the world's calculation, they were living like little demigods, right? But in illusion, forgetful of Krishna. And then Prabhupada comes, like Narada Muni, right? And he saved so many of them. He brought them to the process of devotion, introduced Krishna to them, and trained them in devotional service, and dissipated the illusion that oh, I could be happy in this type of lifestyle. Like these demigods, Nalakura Manigriva, they were thinking, yes, I'm very happy and I'm enjoying. But Narada Muni, by his blessing, they realized, no, that's not real enjoyment. Real enjoyment is being Krishna conscious. So, just about Damodar being bound up, I was reading recently that from this Shivaram Swami's book, he was mentioning past teachers saying how Mother Yashoda was trying very hard to bind Krishna up. And he mentions that the whole process actually started in the morning, right after sunrise, and that it went until the sun was setting, the whole process of trying to bind Krishna up. And it said that at one point Mother Yashoda wrapped the rope around 3 times Damodar's belly. But right when she was about to tie it, it wouldn't go. So the same effect was there. She wasn't able to tie it, but somehow at one point, much later in the process, but she still couldn't tie it. But eventually she tied it, and then she went to go clean up the mess that Krishna made, because Krishna made a big mess, actually, a huge mess in the house. So she went to go clean that, and then he was there, and all the cowherd friends were there. And then, he missed actually a few meals in the process, right? Because it was an all-day thing, so he missed some meals. So the boys were saying, "Are you hungry?" And then Krishna said, "Yes, I am." So Krishna said, "You could go to your homes and bring whatever." So they brought things from their homes, and they came and they were feeding Krishna there, like a picnic. A little picnic there.
With him tied up?
Yeah, with him tied up.
They didn't think maybe to untie him?
Yeah, they didn't untie him, so. Yeah. So they were feeding him, and they're having a little. Yeah. So anyways, that's some more. Okay, so does anybody have any questions, or yes? Can you pass? Yeah.
Now, you mentioned earlier on that sometimes the devotees, they can give good instruction, someone doesn't take it, and they have to take more drastic measures.
Yeah.
Okay, in modern times, we're not cursing people to become trees. I mean, the curse of a Vaishnava is very powerful.
Yeah.
So I accept that the devotees, although they would never do that, but for their benefit, I'm not discounting the ability of devotees to utter words that direct someone's fate,
Yeah.
Okay. But outside of that subtle statement. What are the kinds of, what other extreme methods with devotee? I mean, you know, Prabhupada at one point talks about having the Hare Krishna band, you know, Hare Krishna bang bang. If they don't surrender, just shoot them. So, I mean, what are we talking about here?
That's funny. Yeah, I'll tell you that. His Holiness Giraj Swami, when he was brahmachari there, he was in Juhu and he was walking with Srila Prabhupada. And Prabhupada was walking, and then he was in a joking spirit, and he was joking. He was saying, yes, when we take over the world, when we, you know, not that it's a joke, us taking over the world, but when we take over the world, government, so we'll go to the government, and we'll say, chant Hare Krishna. And if you don't chant Hare Krishna, then we say, then we'll kill you. You know, and Prabhupada was laughing. And all the other devotees were laughing. Besides Giraj Das Brahmachari. He wasn't laughing. And then Prabhupada said, what do you think, Giraj? And then he said he tried to muster up a lot of enthusiasm. He said, yes, Prabhupada, so we could. And then Prabhupada said, oh, our Giraj, he's nonviolent, you know, all the voices. This is also from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Anyways, there's some pastime of him doing this in the Chaitanya Bhagavatam too, but saying such things. But so what are those drastic measures that a devotee? Well, we see here Narada Muni cursing. That's one thing, and you could say that, well, we don't do that nowadays. It's not like we curse people to become trees, or right. And you could say maybe we don't have. To have such power, that's another thing. But I was say more relating that to Krishna taking drastic measures in terms of dealing out our karma in different ways, or the reactions in different ways. Like Krishna may some obstacles in our life, this doesn't work, everything goes up in smoke, right? Everything, takes everything away, right? That's an example of that. Okay, hey, you're not getting the message. Okay, I'm going to take this away. I'm going to take this away. Okay, you're still not getting the message, and take, and then okay, now all.
Say uncle.
Yeah, now all you have is me, right? Krishna says. Now, of course, Krishna taking away, he takes things away, but that he gives himself, that's the highest. To attain Krishna, to attain Krishna consciousness, the highest attainment, highest happiness. So it's not that Krishna just takes away, and then you're suffering there, but he takes and he awards the transcendental bliss of his service. So more so specifically relating to Krishna. Now, of course, much of what devotees do, it's more on this a subtle type of like, for example, the power of prayer. Devotees praying for a particular person, or even devotees praying, hey, Krishna, teach this person a lesson. It's not that the devotee is the one, the delivery agent, but he's petitioning Krishna, hey Krishna, this person, he's not getting the message, so just lay it on him. And then from that, we could say, or what to speak of if many devotees are saying that, what to speak of if the spiritual master is saying that, what to speak of, Then, as was mentioned here by Krishna in the Krishna book, he wanted to fulfill the prophecy of Narada. In other words, he wanted to fulfill the desire of Narada Muni to help these, to pull these tree downs and deliver these entities. So by the desire of the spiritual master or of a devotee, they could pray to Krishna, and that prayer could result in a whole sequence of events that help that devotee, even in a harsh way. I mean, seemingly harsh way. So, so that could be there too. Also, that was mentioned. My spiritual master mentions that in relation to himself, because Prabhupada actually wrote to him and said something to this degree. He said that when I saw you in Boston, I marked your person, and Prabhupada was saying, and he said, and I prayed to Krishna that may this boy understand the importance of Krishna consciousness. So to have a devotee like directly pray for a person, because sometimes it could be like kind of a superficial thing. Oh, hey, give me your blessings, or please pray for me. Sometimes when my spiritual masters ask that, or when devotees are asked that, they say, can I have your blessings? And then sometimes the spiritual master will say, well, what are you trying to achieve? What do you want? And then if they say, well, I'm trying to my knee, or I'm trying to pass the exam or some kind of material thing. But the devotee has the power to pray to Krishna, and so that's there also. Please, Krishna, let this devotee, let Maya really teach us, material energy really teach us personal lessons. So that's there. So, yes.
That was not actually the answer I was thinking. That's a better answer. That was a very good answer. Okay, I was thinking, in addition, although yours is a better answer, but I was thinking, I remember with Tirtha Maharaj or Gunagraj Maharaj, I've known different, nice preachers out in the field, and sometimes they'll just say, listen, somebody keeps coming and hanging around, and they're a devotee, but they're in and out, and they don't really take up service. They don't see them for months, and then they come back, and they're hanging out here prasadam, Krishna Katha. They're in and out, and they're not really going anywhere in their life.
Yeah.
Materially, they're not going anywhere, and spiritually, they're not. They're just drifting.
Yeah.
And so I've heard them say, and sometimes, I heard Prabhupada say, north, east, south, west, pick a direction, but not here. So sometimes the devotees will say, hey, listen, this is not a place for just hanging out and taking Krishna casually. Go out. You want to experience the material world? Go. Come back when you're serious. So that's another, obviously, give an extreme message. It's not that Prabhupada said, I'll forgive you once, I'll forgive you twice, third time I take off my shoe. So I was also thinking that your answer was better. But another angle is that some extreme measures where you say, hey, that's it.
Yeah.
Go on, go out, grow up, come back when you're serious.
Yeah.
Because not a light thing, you just hang out. Oh, it's cool, I'll hang out at the temple.
Yeah, that's definitely there to restrict. Say, hey, you're not serious. Then I mean, I was also thinking Prabhupada one time. I believe it was Brahmananda, of course. Brahmananda, did so much service and so many amazing things for Prabhupada, and he was quite a person. He would say that even if he felt he couldn't do it, like Prabhupada asked him to do something, and in his mind, he felt like he really couldn't do it, just because Prabhupada asked him, he said, okay, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna try, and he would go try and do it. Which not everyone would do that, Not everyone would say, oh, well, Prabhupada told me to do it, I'm just going to go do it. They say, well, Prabhupada, I can't do it. Yeah, all right. And so, Brahmananda, he did something that, he did, some things that didn't please Prabhupada at times. So, so one time he did something, I'm forgetting the exact thing, what it was, but whatever it was, but Prabhupada actually told him, he said, I'm withdrawing my mercy. And then he said at that particular point, he actually felt it, he actually kind of felt, he started crying, So, so the spiritual master could also do something like that, withdrawing my mercy means there is a transference of mercy there. That's the philosophy that's coming through the spiritual masters. So I'm withdrawing my mercy, not out of any ill motive, but just to teach the person. You got to get with the program. But anyways, of course, Brahmananda, he had many redeeming qualities, obviously, and he, again, pleased Prabhupada. So.
Prabhupada did the same thing to Hayagriva.
Yeah.
Hayagriva, I had to haul Hayagriva. It's a long story. I had to go down to T1 and haul him out of a car.
Interesting. You want to head to the Gita with the...
On the other hand, to glorify Brahmananda, he said, what experience did he have? Prabhupada told him, I want to find a first-class publisher to print my Bhagavad Gita. And Brahmananda, he squeezed himself into a suit. He had flip-flops because no hard shoes. I don't know exactly, but a briefcase so he'd look important. And he went to all these big publishers in New York, and he didn't know anything. He didn't have any contacts. He didn't get past ground zero or, ground one or whatever, first floor. And then I don't remember all the details, but because he told me this. I remember him being he said he was in an elevator after being rejected for not even getting past the secretary for the 15th time. And he was actually, he's alone in the elevator, and in frustration he pounded on the wall, boom, and he was about to cry. And the elevator door opened, and this guy stepped in and saw him obviously in the distressed state. And in that human nature, the guy said, what's up? What's wrong, And Brahmananda just gushed like a baby. My guru wants this, and it'll deliver the world. But I don't know. The guy turned out to be the editor for Macmillan. That's how they got it. He was an editor for Macmillan. He said, we're doing a series. We're doing a series of commentaries on the Quran, commentaries on Buddhism, and we need a good commentary on the Gita. Let me see it. And that's how they got it.
Yeah, amazing.
So it's saying he didn't have a slice idea how to do it, but he just tried, and by Krishna's arrangement.
Yeah, and when Brahmananda was trying to deal with this publishing company, the Dai Nippon, where were they with Macmillan? No, there was something else. Yeah. BTG, Krishna Book, Nectar Devotion. So when he was dealing with them in Japan, Brahmananda was trying to get these Krishna books printed so he could present them to Srila Prabhupada at the San Francisco Rath Yatra. So these guys, Dai Nippon, this company who was going to print the Krishna books, it wasn't on time. And then Brahmananda said, this is very bad. He said, this is going to be bad for our relationship. And he was telling them very seriously. And so then he said, right when he was boarding the plane, or he was on the plane, and he said these limousines came up, and the Dai Nippon guys came out, and they had the box of Krishna books, and they gave it to Brahmananda. Then he brought him on the plane. And he said he was sitting there on the plane, and he was looking at the Krishna books, the pictures, and reading. It was the first printed Krishna book. Was looking, and then some business guy said, "Hey, what's that?" He said, "Oh, it's my spiritual master's book and Krishna." And then the guy said, "Well, how much is it?" so he sold the book on the plane there, $10, whatever it was. So then Prabhupada got the books. He was very happy, Krishna book and the Rath Yatra. So he said you should distribute all of them. And then Prabhupada had his, and then he should distribute this one too, Prabhupada's personal. So anyways, Brahmananda Prabhu, he did so much wonderful service. There's a book written, it's called Swamiji. So it's his remembrances of his time with Prabhupada by Satyaraj. It's a nice book. Is there any other question or comment? All right. Any online comment or question?
Yes, I have a question.
Okay.
He's back.
Thank you, Maharaj. You're very kind. Okay, we in accordance with Maharaj's statement for today's class, we need to become committed. But what I find, and this is my question, what I find in Shikshastakam, the last verse, is that, "Oh Krishna, you can do whatever you want with me. You are
Trample me,
completely
yeah.
free for acting in any way because I accept you as my adorable master unconditionally." So my question is, if Krishna can do with me whatever he wants, why is it that I cannot do with Krishna whatever I want?
Well,
It really doesn't work.
because Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and he is he knows what's best, so therefore he could do whatever he wants with us because he knows what's best. Not that, oh, I could do whatever I want with Krishna. Now, of course, when somebody becomes such as a person, such as Mother Yashoda, then obviously dynamics are different in the sense that she was thinking that, oh, I must punish him, this boy, because if I don't punish him, he's not going to learn. I have to punish him, and I have to make a point. Also, she was thinking, I have to make a point to all the other boys in the village that, hey, if you do such things, then so. But she's forgetting that he's the Supreme Personality of God. Actually, it doesn't matter to her whether he is or not. Of course, there's some indications that she remembers at a time, but then she immediately forgets because of this, spontaneous motherly love she has for Krishna. So when someone's on the platforms as the devotees of Vrindavan, then it's different. But in the material world, to think, oh, I could do whatever I want, then we don't subscribe to that idea.
They do think of God as an order supplier.
Yeah.
God give me this, God give me that. They think they can't command, I'm pious, God, you have to save me. How can you let this happen? I served you. So they do think like that.
Yeah, the people think like that. God's the order supplier, and I'm pious. Why is this happening to me? But that's all calculated by Rupa Goswami. All these I could just do whatever I want with Krishna. That's all just calculated as aparad, as offensive. So therefore we don't,
And if I may, what is the result of becoming offensive against Krishna?
Well, depending on how offensive we become, we definitely don't. If we're offensive towards Krishna, which also means offensive towards devotees, then there's no question of developing love for Krishna. So, if we want to go in the direction of developing love for Krishna, then we have to give up the fences. So that's the idea.
Of course, Prabhu. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, Bajranayan Swami says the heart becomes like stone by offensives. So, all right. Grantraj, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Well, I've been chastised.